My name is Morris Anyah. I will be arguing the first ground of appeal on behalf of the prosecution.
Yes.
It is the prosecution's position that the appellant's first ground of appeal, namely his challenge to the right to be appointed a particular counsel of his choice. In our view, that ground of appeal implicates four distinct but interrelated issues. The first of those issues has to do with the basic question of whether or not his right to counsel, to have the assistance of a lawyer, whether that right was respected in this case. As to that particular issue, the defense as well as the prosecution are in agreement and there is no dispute. Counsel for the accused indicated today that there was no formal denial of the right to representation insofar as the registrar appointed Oliver Michael Inglis to represent the appellant. I would also add that they concede this fact in paragraph 22 of the appellant's brief. I would note, however, that I would respectfully propose that the appeals chamber make a distinction between this first issue of whether or not his right to counsel was respected and two other issues. One being the question of whether the attorney he finally chose and the attorney that was ultimately assigned to represent him provided competent or adequate legal assistance. The second issue that might be distinguished from the question of respect of his right to counsel is the question whether or not there was any error on the part of the registrar in denying the appellant's request that Johan Skiers be appointed to represent him at the time that request was made, which in our view was sometime in March of 1998. The second issue that is implicated by the appellant's first ground of appeal is the general question whether a suspect or an accused who is indigent, and I would lay emphasis on the word indigent, someone who cannot on their own afford an attorney, whether such a person under the legal regime of this tribunal has the right, in fact has an absolute right, to choose a particular attorney that must be assigned to him by the registrar. As to this issue, we have indicated in our brief, and I submit today with respect, that under the jurisprudence of this tribunal, as well as the jurisprudence of its sister tribunal, the International Criminal Tribunal for the former Yugoslavia, suspects and accused who are indigent do not have an absolute right to request that a particular attorney be assigned to them by the registrar. I would also indicate that, generally speaking, under international law, as well as the legal systems of major domestic jurisdictions, no such right attaches to an indigent accused, suspect, or defendant. The third issue that is implicated by the appellant's first ground of appeal involves the registry's determination that Mr. Johan Skiers would not be assigned as counsel for the appellant. Essentially, the question is whether there was any error committed by the registrar in declining the appellant's request that Mr. Skiers be appointed to represent him. As to this third issue, the prosecution's position is that the registrar, in exercise of the broad discretion that is granted to the registrar in the assignment of counsel, validly and rightfully declined and denied the appellant's request to have Mr. Skiers assigned as his counsel.